I just saw something came over my email that it's the 100th birthday of the North Dakota Bank tomorrow. So we can say happy birthday, North Dakota Public Bank. And maybe someday we'll have one in here in Massachusetts. I love that story, and one of the things I recommend in this book is that each chapter really is grounded in narrative and a story of something happening in around the country. And I don't know if there were stories or, you relate some experiences being on the Lakota, reservation and others, but maybe share a couple of the stories that stick with you, that you want people to read more.
Right, yeah, so speaking of language, a lot of the challenge of writing about economics is trying to make it not quite so boring. And so what we do here is we tell stories of places that we've worked and that we admire around the country. And one of my favorites is where I open the book, is with the story of Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and this is in South Dakota. And I had the good fortune, it was actually the very first project of mine at the Democracy Collaborative. We worked with a half dozen Native American groups around the country, trying to get some kind of economic activity going in Indian country, as they call it, that didn't involve tribal government. There's nothing wrong with tribal government, but that's about the only thing happening on most reservations. And so our program officer said, let's get something else going, and brought us in. Well, I worked with this young fellow, Nicholson. He's a 30-something young man. He's Native American. And he was part of some youth who were reviving spiritual practices on Pine Ridge. Some spiritual practices among natives had been outlawed until the 70s, and so they were reviving these. And he told us that in ceremony they got a message from the elders. And it was, how long will you allow your children to have their fate determined by someone else? Are you not warriors? And out of this, Nick said that they realized they wanted to form a community development corporation. They wanted to get something going. And they spent hundreds of hours in listening to the community. Now, I have to tell you, I've been to Pine Ridge and have studied it as part of this project. And unemployment on Pine Ridge has been estimated as high as 80%. And you go there and there is just nothing happening. People don't work. It's hard to spend money. When a dollar comes on to Pine Ridge, it exits within 48 hours. You simply can't spend money. People told me that if you wanted to buy chicken that was not breaded and frozen, and in the frozen section of the grocery, you had to drive 70 miles. So one of the things that they did, so they spent hours listening to people, and they decided they're going to build a regenerative community. There was not a single home for sale anywhere on Pine Ridge. You had families living, 3 families in a broken down trailer. So they said, we're going to build a whole regenerative community. It's going to have homes for rent, it's going to have homes for sale, it's going to have spiritual places and youth places and business, place for business. It's going to produce all its own energy, it's going to recycle all its own water, and they're going to train youth in construction skills as they build houses. And also they created an employee-owned construction company, and that's something that we were helping them with. And last I heard, there were 13 houses that had been built. It's 34 acres. It's a $65 million project. The drawings were done by a leading green architect, and they hung for a while in the Cooper Hewitt Design Museum in Manhattan. Nick has inspired people all over the country. Dozens and dozens of tribal groups are now coming to him. So it's a wonderful story. And I want to just say, okay, so what's the lesson there? And that is, Nick probably could have said, I'm going to leave this reservation and I'm going to be a millionaire. He had the smarts to do that, but he didn't. He wanted to work for his community. So the value of community is just natural to indigenous people. And it's not the value that we have at the core of our economy, which is all about self. The rational economic man, the self-made man. And so you have in Silicon Valley, you have young entrepreneurs who say, I'm going to be a billionaire, and they do. And meanwhile, 1 out of 3 children in Silicon Valley are going hungry. So so we want to emphasize, it's a different way to organize an economy. Economies are organized around values. This is what systems science tells us. It says humans we self-organize around what we care about, what we value. It's not laws that organize us, it's not regulations, it's values. And so what we look at in the book is what are the values that people are just organically taking up and caring about, and community is core of one.